The eggplant? I know. I'm working on it. All right, you guys sound in the background? Someone just put this in my life. Yeah, I want to come on here, guys. Hi, Brett. Thank you for joining. I want to come on here. Good morning. Happy Saturday. What have you guys been up to? I've walked. I'm eating. I'm cooking kale. Listening to Live Your Life. I'll turn it down so you can hear me. You probably can't hear me over the air fryer. Yeah, we're going to do some math today. I know we're all reading teachers, but one thing that I didn't do, and I see a lot of tutors or therapists that are trying to get online do and make mistakes, is they don't do the math. And because they don't do the math, what winds up happening is they wind up throwing cash in the trash. And that's what I did when I got out of teaching. I left teaching overnight in 2015. I immediately went into tutoring, thinking $50 an hour was a really amazing price. I was hired by a company for $50 an hour. P.S. How many years later? Like 2016. 10 years later, they're still paying the people the same amount of money, $50 an hour. So that's just a little insight as to how companies operate and how they're going to treat you. Okay, so let's do some math really quickly. Look, I brought a visual, okay? Now, this is going to be some upside down. This is going to be backwards for you because I'm not going to write backwards numbers, but you guys are going to be able to get it. So this person is person A, okay? They're a newbie. They don't know how to build a tutoring business effectively. This person's strutting in the business shoes and is like, okay, I'm ready to go. I don't want to make mistakes. Maybe I'm a newbie. Drop in the chat if you're a newbie. Drop in the chat if you're here to learn because you want to leave teaching, LT. Drop in the chat if you want to set up a side hustle, SH. What's a side hustle? 5 hours and 2K a month. What would be a good exit out if you're thinking about that? I'm going to actually walk you through the math and what math you need to be doing instead of what math most people are doing. So if you are here and you're listening, or you have a friend that might want to listen to this, and they're like feeling that they can only get $50 an hour and they're stuck in a referral circle, first thing is, and if you didn't watch the live yesterday, get home base. Get to your home where your business is set up out of your home as a dyslexia tutor, because at minimum, you book clients minute to minute, and that's going to max out your income. I take it to another level with my people. I say, get online. And for everyone that was scared of online teaching during the pandemic or think that parents don't want this, parents don't want ineffective lessons. Parents actually want effective online teaching. And also it's a skill. And just because we were forced to learn it overnight doesn't mean we should learn it overnight. I started learning in 2019 when a little boy, Wiggly Boy Jack, was one of my first online clients. He moved from Miami to LA. He was the son of a supermodel, and she's like, hey, can you keep working with Jack? And at that time, I'd gone from $50 an hour to $100 an hour. I know, it only took me 5 years, but I did it. Yeah, effective, that's right. Parents don't want ineffective online teaching. They don't want their child to be put on another device. They don't want their child to be put on an app. P.S., if a parent does see you can put your child on an app or a website or something like that, they're going to look up how much that costs, and they can potentially hand it off to someone else, okay? So in this age of like overwhelm in terms of information, in terms of resources, we want to keep it really simple. I actually had someone join the program the other day, and she's like, I really love teaching online, but I feel like the slides that I'm using, like the kids, I'm losing them. I don't use slides. I don't use the remote control. I keep the setup simple on the parent side because they're investing a high level of income. They're investing a lot to get their child these skills, and they don't want to be overwhelmed. So my parents are completely independent of this whole thing. And then on your side, you need to keep simple setup. So honestly, keep it super simple. But I want to do math. I want to do business math because I want to show you what person A does. Dyslexia therapist A, that's not quite walking in their business shoes, and dyslexia therapist B, okay? So B is in their business shoes. They're down here. A is like, uh-oh, I might have made some mistakes, or it's to show you what you shouldn't do. All right, so person A decides that they're going to set up an tutoring business, whether it's online, whether it's in person, and says, what I can get is $50 an hour, because either they're scared about online, they don't know their worth, or they don't know how to find their clients. So like, I'm going to stick at $50 an hour. Now, $50 an hour at 20 hours a week is going to bring you in, $1,000. I know it's backwards, but you guys can get it, right? Because we're sticking to zeros. This isn't Singapore math. So that's going to get you $1,000. You do that consistently, and that will give you a $4K month. Which sounds good, except you're working 20 hours. And that's really hard, especially if you're a teacher and you're using this as a pathway out. Plus, if we do really simple math, in 3 months, that's going to get you 12K. Sounds good, right? Oh my gosh, 3 months, I can get 12K. That sounds good to any teacher right now. I know a lot of teachers that would want to be making 12K over the summer, right? 3 months is 12K. But we're not taking into consideration how many hours we're getting there. We're working 20 hours a week, and that means we're working 80 hours, okay? 80 hours a month to get to that 4K month. We also have to take into consideration that if you're trying to go out in year 5, I went out in year 9 and had to forego retirement, because if I accepted retirement, that meant that I would have to actually give up ever working in a Massachusetts public school again, and I wasn't ready to make that decision, not in my 30s and not working at one of the top 5 public school districts in Massachusetts, who had floor-to-ceiling science of reading materials and actually got me certified as a practitioner. And my mentor actually said to me, like, if you don't get certified because they're giving you a kid, they're paying for it, and if you don't, you're not going to be considered tenure. So that's person A, okay? And that's not even counting if person A picks $50 an hour, is also driving around town, is also working for a company, is also doing 10-minute conversations with families afterwards, is also spending a lot of time lesson planning. Because you're adding hours, and a business owner's goal, if you want to operate from a business owner, is to work the least amount of hours, make the most amount of income, okay? Now, person B is in their business shoes, okay? Maybe they're in the academy, maybe they're joining my Online with Ease Academy, maybe they're just smart in terms of business. Person B knows that they have a skill set that is so amazing that they actually can get $100 an hour from a family. So they're not going to start at $50 an hour. They're not going to throw cash in the trash. They're standing in their prices, in their boundaries, and they're charging $50 an hour. That same person, instead of making 1K a week with 20 hours, they're going to make 2K. So now we have a 2K week with 20 hours, if 20 hours is like your goal, right? Now, if they're making 2K a week with 20 hours because they're charging $100 an hour, okay, 2K, if we do the math really quickly, that means they're going to have an 8K month, an 8K month. That means if we do the math really quickly, 8K times 3 would give them 24K after 3 months, okay? I know. My pen is fading. That means it's time to go to Staples. And that's okay, because I don't get scared when I go to Staples, because I don't have to worry about buying school supplies for a bunch of people. So I just have to get like one little pack of markers and I'm out. Okay, so do you see the difference? If we look at person A, who's accepted $50 an hour, accepted that they can only get clients for $50 an hour, is working 20 hours a week, has a lot of planning to do, and is making 1K a week. And because of that, that means it's a 4K month. And after 3 months, they're making 12K. That's if everybody's consistent. That's if people are paying in advance. That's if they don't get sick. That's if they can travel with their business or they can travel with the family. If they don't, that means that like every lesson has to be accounted for. That gives you a 48K at max exit out of teaching if we round that to 12 months, which we know is not going to really be realistic based on kids that are sick or you're sick or ever how that works, right? Now, B, walking in the business shoes, okay, is coming out and saying, no, I'm going to charge $100 an hour. I'll still work 20 hours a week. I'm going to kill it and get 2K a week. So that means my months are 8K, and that means in 3 months I'm making 24K. And what that means is if we take 8K and times it by 12, now we're at 96K. Now, here's where it gets really good. Because person B also needs less people, And they're setting business boundaries. So they're learning how to book clients minute to minute in terms of being online. They're setting business boundaries in terms of where are those clients, and they're respecting me and they're making it fun for me. I'm making sure that I have a fun business. Now, 96K, it's okay, right? It sounds really good. But I want to show you how to get to 6 figures by being a person B, walking in their business shoes and getting those higher rates. So you're not person A, where you're stuck and maxed out at 48K, doing more one-on-one or potentially working for a company, doing more lesson plannings, more families, more communication. So person B is like, okay, I'm in demand now. Person B is like my Laura. Laura is, she started at $40 an hour with a principal, helping a principal. She was going to the school. The principal raised her price to $70 an hour. She was Zooming this year at $70 an hour. The principal's now raised her price to $100 an hour. Why? Because she proved herself. The principal loves her. And if you think about what Laura's doing, she's actually zooming into middle schoolers. She's working with them one-on-one. Hi, friend. Thank you for joining. She's working with them one-on-one. You have to think about the value in that. That school doesn't have to hire a special education teacher. They don't have to pay retirement. They don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to have angry parents because their kids are getting one-on-one intervention with a dyslexia practitioner who's certified. They don't have to worry about overwhelming learning centers where kids don't make progress. So Laura is super valuable. Laura is secured for next school year at $100 an hour with this school, 4.5-hour days, 3 days a week. She also has additional clients now. Hi, Casey. She's additional clients now who are paying her $125 an hour. Why? Because now she has leverage. So when you get to this point, I know you can barely read it, but basically $100 an hour, 20 hours a week is going to get you to an 8K month, okay? Now, person B is even smarter because person B is like, my skill set's so amazing. I'm a sparkly unicorn, so I'm going to take it higher. Because what happens is as you become more and more in demand, you get to increase your price. And I know this is really hard to hear because we're teaching kids to read, but you need to take care of yourself first. So eventually, if you wanted to give back to whatever community you want to give back to, like I have a client who's doing Meals on Wheels. I have clients that are giving back in a way where they're showing up for their family. You can't pour from an empty cup. So person B is like, I want to go higher. This feels good. I have my clients. They're respecting me. They're paying me consistently. I'm getting paid $100 an hour. As we get closer and closer to that 20-hour mark, to that, now we become kind of in demand. And that's how I've been able to go from $30 an hour driving around all this crazy city, $50 an hour working for a company, to $100 an hour from my seat, to $125 an hour for my seat, to $150 an hour for my seat, to $200 an hour for my seat. Why? Because I became really good and really well known at what I did as a dyslexia practitioner that was online and as somebody who's really narrowed into kindergartners because I love working with kindergartners. So when you think about business, when you're in demand, just like eggs right now, what's happening? What's happening with gas? Are gas prices going down because they're in demand? It's in demand? No, unfortunately not, right? Are egg prices going down because they're in demand? No, unfortunately not. You're in demand. 20% of the population needs you, and you have the keys to the future. You are so in demand, and it breaks my heart that I talk to so many experts. They're like, I can't get $40 an hour. I can't get $30 an hour. My fellow says I can't charge more than $30 an hour. It's your business. You decide what you charge. And maybe there's another side of this, but I'm on I want you to have the best health. I want you to have the best schedule. I want you to really have a freedom-based life. So if person B was like, I'm going to value myself more and more and more, person B is the ability to get to the 6-figure mark. And that's why I have a training called From 2K Side Hustle to 6 Figures. And it's really starting by like, how are you setting up your business? Because what person B can do is as they are walking in their business shoes, they actually can raise their price. So they're no longer at 100. Now they're going to say 125. Now they're going to say 150. Now they're going to say 125, minimum of 3 lessons, or like Laura who got 5 lessons, right? So when you're thinking about setting up your business, you have to be really clear at where you are. Because if you start at $50 an hour, you're throwing away $50 an hour. And you're stuck. Maybe you're stuck in a referral circle. Maybe you're stuck in a company. But I wish someone had told me, hey, 5 years straight, every single time you left your house, every time you schlepped your stuff somewhere, every time you wrote those lesson plans, you were throwing $50 an hour away because you didn't know anything about business. And then there was also honestly no opportunity for us to be online. So real quickly, person A is where a lot of people are stuck. I can only get $50 an hour, okay? I almost like threw my marker on the stove. That's not good. I can only get $50 an hour. If I work 20 hours, that's $1,000. 1,000 times 4, 4K sounds good. 4K times 3, 12K. And so in 3 months, you make 12K. That could be your summer income. And then after, if you want to replace your teaching income, that gets you to 48K with less than 20 hours of work. Of course, that's not taking into consideration cancellations and things like that. Person B is like, I'll still work 20 hours, but I'm charging $100 an hour, which means I'm going to have a 2K week, which means I'm going to have an 8K month, which means in 3 months, I'm making 24K. So you guys need to make the decision. Are you making 12K in 3 months, or are you making 24K in 3 months? Are you making, for the sixes, 24K in 6 months, or are you making more like 48K in 6 months? Are you making 48K for the year, or are you making 96K? And where we really secure that is as you become more and more demand. You become so good at online. You become so good at talking to families. You become so good at sales. You become so good at saying no to the right fit. I know this feels really harsh, but I'm always here to talk about money because honestly, we don't talk about it enough. We're teachers that goes to tutor or tutorpreneur, and I want you to go to an empowered business owner. So if any of this stuff is hitting or you want to share it with a friend, there's a very systematic way to set up your business, and I really wish someone had given me this exit plan when I actually left teaching, and it took me 2 years to figure out that I was really needed as a dyslexia practitioner in this world. I was like tutoring math and you don't even know, like 7th grade written composition. I didn't know how valuable my skills were. So you are a sparkly unicorn. There are so many families that need you. You need to get outside your zip code. You need to be home based so you can max out your income. And instead of starting at 50, where you're throwing away 50 every single time you tutor, every single time you say, yes, I'll meet you at the library, every single time you schlep your stuff in the heat and wait for your car to cool down with the air conditioning, every time you walk away from your stove or your bathroom and you actually go deliver services like DoorDash, you're throwing $50 an hour away because you can find a $100 an hour client. So starting in May, actually some people are starting this week with one-on-one calls. There's 2 different ways to start right now. If you're feeling a little nervousness, like who is this girl? I don't trust her. You can actually start in May with us for a 4 weeks to your 2K. So what I'm going to do in that 4 weeks is show you, if you're a dyslexia practitioner, if you're heavily Orton Gillingham trained, how do you get to your first 2 clients and your first 2K? And that's essentially when you stick to your prices, when you stick to your business boundaries, that honestly is essentially 5 hours of work as you're cycling out of teaching. Then if you want to continue, or if you're ready to say yes to the Academy right now, the Academy is meant to build you up to that 5K mark with consistency. I've gotten to 5K with 5 clients, 2 sessions a week, 10 hours of work. Each pay me $125. That means each client was paying me $1,000 a month. There's your 5K. Now, if you are a really big dreamer like person B, who's like, I want to take the 6 figures and be gone, well, then after we work together for 3 to 6 months, if you're an action taker, if you're taking the steps, if you're like, yes, I'm doing this, and I see that within the group, and I see that you are an action taker, I will invite you in if this is something that fits the next step for you. our mastermind, which is Rewired for Dyslexia CEO Academy, where I'm helping people build past 10K with no social media. Because I did it, honestly. I feel kind of I was scared to say this for a while, but I've had a 66K month, and it is growing, and I'm working. And people are like, oh yeah, but you're on social media. This is true. And you must have so many team members. No, there's 2 of us, unless you include my dog, okay? There are ways to build a business strategically. Unfortunately, the missing piece in the teacher world is no one knows what the heck they're talking about in business. And I say that with kindness, because we all choose this not to be business owners. We choose this because we have this beautiful heart on our sleeve, and we want to give and give and give. And whether we're at school giving from an empty cup, or whether we're in our home setting up a business, we're still giving from an empty cup. And I want your cup to be full, and I want you to have a freedom-based business, and I want you to be able to pack it up and take it where you want to go. So if you want to start with us in May, try it out, okay? That's your pathway to 2K. That's going on right now. Or if you're like, I'm all in, I want this experience that's going to help and support me through the start of the school year, because I don't want to be scared when I look at school supplies on July 1st in Target or wherever I am, and I see them and they make me scared, right? I don't want you to fear that, right? I'd rather have you picking out pretty journals and think, oh, I'm gonna write about all my goals, or making vision boards, right? Okay, so if you're thinking this, there's 2 different ways to work with me right now. One way is give me the 2K pathway. That's a way to come inside and really work with me in terms of a small group and really get those business skills that you might be missing, because let's face it, there are not a lot of spaces that support teachers specifically in business. And I don't just support teachers or any teachers. I only support people that have Orton Gillingham training and dyslexia therapists, because that is who I know can get $100 an hour, $150 an hour, $125 an hour, whether it's because I got it or because I've had clients since 2023 do it. No, this is not just USA based. This is UK. So my friend Sparkle, send me a DM, because what happens at the end of this is everybody disappears. So I don't see any comments. I don't know why IG does this. Write a letter to IG. Tell them that's crazy. Anybody that writes the comments here, I don't get like a copy of it sent to me. There's no fax machine sending me like, Sparkle sent you, I'm going to call you Sparkle to protect your name, but Sparkle sent me a comment during my live. They don't do that. So make sure you send me a DM. I'll try to screenshot you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, send me a DM and we can chat. So whether you start the 4-week path, which is your pathway to 2K, obviously that's a lower entrance fee. It's like, you want to come in, you want to trust what we're doing together, you want to get the real business skills without social media, come on in. Hang out in May, right? There's actually special pricing until Sunday at midnight, and it's $9.97 to come in for May, right? We're doing 4 weeks of intensive where I show you where are your first 2 clients that are going to fund your 2K month with your 5 hours of work. If you're like, wow, this sounds amazing, I want to go further, I want to get right into the academy. Well, May, actually, that 2K pathway comes as a bonus. You also get one-on-one support starting this week as my schedule allows. And then the academy kicks off in June. So the earlier you sign up, the more support you get. The earlier you sign up, the more bonuses you get. I love rewarding action takers. I want you guys in a really comfy place when you write your letter to admin. And honestly, if I had advice for you, it'd be start yesterday, because it's really starting. When do you want to bring in money? When do you want to start having conversations with those dream clients? When do you want to start being so good at online that you get to be out of your zip code? Actually, UK, I talked to someone in the UK. She was in like this isolated area. She's like, I would love to be able to Zoom to London. I'm like, well, let's go, because that's where your people are that can fund your dreams. So let's get you Zoom into London. So yeah, definitely it's UK. I have people in Malaysia, India, New Zealand. One of like my first 5 people in 2023 that joined was from New Zealand. We have Canada, a lot of Texans. Texas is doing so much training with their experts, but then they're also overworking them. So I have a lot of Texans that I work with. What other countries? I feel like I'm missing some, but anyways, yeah, the global community is building. So this is not a US based thing. This is, how do I set up my private business success? So even someone I'm working with India right now, I was able to show her how she can get to her high paying clients in India, because she's going to go be working, she's working and Zooming with people in Australia. Why? Because she has a specific schedule she wants. So at first I was like, hey, you should connect with people in Boston. You should connect with people in Montreal. But then that doesn't align with her ideal schedule for her family. So we have to look differently. Like, okay, Australia is going to give you the hours that you want, those hours that are going to stick to what are the best hours for my family. So every single person in this Zoom area, once we get on Zoom, you all have a customized route to your high-paying clients. That's what we find together, even in the first 2 weeks of April. So I'll see you in the DMs, but guys, I'm going to go eat. The kale is stanking up my house, so I got to go open the door too. Bye.